We got results for AEW Dynamite for the December 16th edition. This was an okay show. It was live from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. It seemed like the fans, it was 59 degrees when I checked during the show, but the fans seemed kind of dead. I mean, they've been running the same shows at the same place for a long time, so I think the crowd was probably getting thinned out. But first off, we started with a tag match. Hangman Page, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds versus Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Quinn. Winner, Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Quinn. I gave this a grade of 3.50. I like the pairing of Page, Silver, and Reynolds. Just Hardy just can't even move. Why is it like we don't? He's another guy I would probably throw in there with Luther amongst some others that we just don't need on the roster. I don't see him bringing anything to Isaiah Cassidy or Mark Quinn, or even his character right now, and he really can't wrestle anymore. I mean, he's stiff as a board. He's done a good job throughout his career, but I think it's time to move on from Matt Hardy. And he did the win. We'll see what's going on with Hardy and the Private Party, but I'm just not feeling this. Really, do like the Dark Order and Hangman Page, though. That was good. MJF checks in, talking about his thing that he won with the New York Times. We talked about that. Congratulations are in order for Cody and Brandy. This was a nice little package. They're expecting their first child. Congratulations to them. Between them and the Moxley crew, we should be having some young, great wrestlers in the next 20, 25 years or so coming from those families. So congratulations to them. Then we get Cody Rhodes versus Angelico. He is a great wrestler, Angelico. I really liked him. I liked this match. Lots of grappling stuff. He could definitely be on his own as a singles man, instead of Jack Evans too. I mean, both of them are great wrestlers. I gave this one a 3.50. It was kind of a little slow at times. Again, I always go to my on my phone, and I really think I got a lot of low grades this week because the crowd was just so dead. But I mean, we're right in the middle of what. It's cold, and for them, people in Jacksonville, and I felt the crowd was just very dead, and I guess that's why I was kind of like, these matches aren't that great. Later on, Sting just walks out with his bat because Taz and his crew threatened to beat up Cody Rhodes, and he just walks out and walks away. You can't keep going to that well. It worked once the first time. Second time he came out and said something. This time, not really. It was kind of awkward. Like he walks out, shows his bat, and then walks away. This was kind of, I'm like, really? That old guy is going to beat up, 5 or 6 dudes? But okay, it's Sting. I get it. But it was just kind of a little awkward, in my opinion. Miro checks in. This got me interested. So Miro is going to do something for next week's Dynamite with Kip Sabian. So I was wondering where this storyline was going about Sabian's wedding with Penelope Ford. Now it looks like we'll get some answers next week. Eddie Kingston came out to address his enemies, and a full-on brawl broke out. And Pac comes out and returns, which is great. And we'll get into that and why he's here in a little bit. Dustin Rhodes speak. He's all fired up about Evil Uno. Next week, we'll get into the card later, next week's card. Then we get the Inner Circle, Jericho, MJF, Sammy Guevara, Santana Ortiz, and Jake Hager versus Top Flight, Varsity Blondes, and Best Friends. No Wardlow. Apparently, Wardlow had some family issues, so he was out, and so they pulled Brandon Cutler. Poor Brandon Cutler was going to get a spot on Dynamite. And if you had him on Fantasy AEW, that would have been a great Brandon Cutler, that would have been a real good one. He wins on Dark and appears on Dynamite. That would have been a lot of points. But no Brandon Cutler. Oh, and by the way, we don't have AEW Fantasy just ready just yet. January 4th, 3rd or 4th. Winner Inner Circle. I gave this a 4. This was the elite match of the night. Really enjoyed. Top Flight was good. Varsity Blondes was good. Great in the beginning where Chris Jericho went with Brian Pillman Jr. That was a good spot too. And of course the Best Friends were great. And the way it was finished with MJF getting the win, Sammy Guevara was good, Santana Ortiz going after Best Friends. All of this was a good, well put together match. And usually big matches like this, I'm always worried that it just gets sloppy and old. But this was my elite match of the night. Gave this one a 4. Then we get a segment with Thunder Rosa checking in. I thought she was going to say that she's part of AEW. She's not, I guess. She gets beat up by Britt Baker. This could be the women's match of the year. These two guys going at it. So we'll see where that storyline progresses. Tag match, SCU, Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels versus The Acclaimed, Matt Caster and Anthony Bowens. The Acclaimed. I don't like the John Cena gimmick. I don't really see anything great about this tag team versus some of the other ones that have come on board. And frankly, I just thought this wasn't good. I just really didn't care. I'm just not a fan of the Acclaimed right now. Maybe I'll change later on, but they're getting a big push. We'll see where it goes, but I'm just not feeling them. And then against SCU, winner, Acclaimed, I give this a 3. Could care less about this match, honestly. And there wasn't any oh, that's amazing, or, you get from Top Flight or Private Party. And I know these guys aren't the flippity-floppity type of dudes, but I just don't see anything unique or interesting with their gimmick. So I gave this one a 3. Tag match, Serena Deeb and Big Swole versus Ivelisse and Diamante. Winner, Serena Deeb and Big Swole. I gave this a 3 as well. There was points that it was a little sloppy. I really wanted to give this a little bit more of a higher grade because Serena Deeb is good and Ivelisse is good. Diamante and Big Swole are getting better. That was the part that kind of stalled it for me a little bit. But the women's division is getting better. I think there's been other better women's matches, but this was a decent match, and we'll see. After the match, Red Velvet came out, and then Nyla Rose came out. So we'll see where this takes us going forward. But again, we've talked about this before. The women's division is getting better and better each week. No question about that. Then finally, we get the singles match: Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela. One that we were supposed to get. Then Janela had issues with the thing that's going around. He didn't have it, but he was around somebody, so they punted it. And now we got our little rematch here. This was a good match. I gave this one a 4. Winner, Kenny Omega. No shocker here. Some high spots. Thought Janela did well, too, in this match. It was almost the elite match, but it was a little too awkwardy with Don Callis coming out and just talking. I thought maybe we'd have some tie-in with Impact Wrestling. That didn't go anywhere. They didn't really. They was kind of mentioned. Tony Schiavone got into it. Don Callis a little bit. Schiavone had the best line of the night when Kenny Omega came out. He said, "Oh yeah, they increased Impact Wrestling on Access viewership from 1 to 6 last week, this week, which I thought was funny. That was a good line. But then after the match, Rey Fénix." Kenny, we're getting that December 30th. Pac comes out and says, "Hey, man, you never really beat Rey Fénix because he was injured, if you remember." And then Penta filled in for Omega. So for December 30th, Rey Fénix versus Kenny Omega. Now I'm excited. Now we have something interesting to look forward to. Clearly, Fénix isn't going to win, but he's one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW, and he always puts on a great show. So that should be a great match. Overall, it was an okay AEW Dynamite. It's not as good as the last 2 weeks. I anticipate next week is not going to be that great because why throw out your big guns when you're going to be pushed to after 10 o'clock on Wednesdays? The loyal fans, your 600,000 or so, 700,000 might tune in. You're not going to get close to that million because it's later on at night. So that you don't have to break out anything big. But it was an okay show. We're teetering down to December, but it looks like they're going to try to build up that December 30th episode of Dynamite. It should be a big one coming soon. Next week's card for the December 23rd edition of AEW Dynamite. Now remember, this will be taped. It's taped on the 17th. It will air on the 23rd. The Holiday Bash, as they're calling it, will be after the NBA on TNT Celtics versus Bucks game. So just keep that in mind. So it will be taped, but then December 30th and January 6th, we will be live in Jacksonville. So that is some good news there. It says live. I assume it's not taped, but I feel like they would tape, but I guess they can't tape on December 31st because it's New Year's Eve. Or maybe they will. I don't know what's going on. So we got the headlining of the match of the night for me, I guess, is Pac versus The Butcher. That's probably going to be your main event. I'm looking forward to that. Tag match, we got the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson versus the Acclaimed Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. I'm hoping this is a one-off, then they lose, and then they're out of their ranking stuff. I'm just not feeling this tag team at all. The Acclaimed, not at all, not feeling it. We get to another tag match, Chris Jericho and MJF versus Top Flight, Darius and Dante. Not excited to see Chris Jericho in the ring, but I am excited to see Top Flight. I'd actually prefer Wardlow and MJF versus Top Flight, but we'll get Chris Jericho and MJF in there. It's okay with that. Singles match, Evil Uno and Dustin Rhodes. This could be a dark horse kind of match because I'm really interested what's going on with Dustin Rhodes in the Dark Order, and maybe this will progress that storyline a little bit more and be a good match. We get Hikaru Shida versus To Be Determined. I'm just going to throw out a wild guess, and I'm going to say it's Red Velvet. Might be the one because she interfered this week. Maybe it's Red Velvet that comes and wrestles Hikaru Shida, and then this way they can have other people going, and then you have Abaddon involved too. Last but not least, we got a Jurassic tag match. Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Marco Stunt, and Luchasaurus versus Dark Order, Colt, Cabana, 5 and 10. Not really sure what the point of this match is as far as storylines go, but we saw FTR come out talking trash about Jurassic Express, so maybe FTR gets involved or something like that. But that is your card for next week's AEW Dynamite Christmas Holiday Bash. Holiday Bash on AEW Dynamite. Let's hit the quick recap of AEW Dark for December 15th. First up, we got Ricky Starks versus Sothira Chun. Winner, of course, Ricky Starks. Brandon Cutler versus Baron Black. Winner, Brandon Cutler. Hikaru Shida versus Kalen King. Winner, Hikaru Shida. Post-match, Abaddon comes out, messing with her. So I'm glad that storyline continues on Dark. Dr. Britt Baker had a segment with the Perfect 10, Sean Spears and Tully Blanchard. Jurassic Express versus Sean Dean and Fuego del Sol, fan favorite of Pro Wrestling News Hub. Winner, Jurassic Express. Leva Bates versus Skylar Moore. Winner, Leva Bates. Brian Cage versus VSK. Winner, Brian Cage. The Acclaimed, Matt Caster and Anthony Bowens versus Louis Val and Mike Magnum. Winner, the Acclaimed, and they just jumped on the top 5 tag team list on the AEW rankings this week. Anna Jay versus Danny Jordan. Winner, Anna 99J. I guess they're going to start using her number with the win there. Stu Grayson and Evil Uno, the Dark Order versus Bear Country. Bear Bronson and Bear Beefcake. Winner, the Dark Order. Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela versus Ryzen and Sean Maluta. Winner, Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. Tay Conte versus Frida States. Winner, Tay Conte. Matt Sydal versus Danny Limelight. Winner, Matt Sydal. Ivelisse versus Casey Lennox, who looks very similar to Sasha Banks. I thought it was a picture of her. At one point, I saw a picture of her. Winner, Ivelisse. Chaos Project, Luther and Serpentico versus Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent. Winner, Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent. And that closes out episode of Dark for December 15th, 2020.